right, I see the little ticker that says we are live. Okay, this is Humane Mind Live, episode 142. Biden victory unless Trump wins later. Hopefully that doesn't get struck down. I was trying to come up with something that other than just election stream or something stupid like that. But this should be fine given the current circumstances where social media platforms have all agreed Biden can declare victory today, but Trump cannot.
Yeah. Very ignorant. That should be alarming to everybody.
Yeah. So that is a bizarre circumstance, but so we didn't have a stream last week, so some of these topics are from last week and they're kind of held over, but so I will be talking about the round 3 debate, which was actually only the second debate, but so that's round 3 with 2 in parentheses fight. I will be talking about new math. He said what? And then, unfortunately, some sad news. Well, I think I'm going to start with this, so that way we get the sad thing out of the way, because this is just, I just found about this earlier today. Sean Connery died. So,
yeah. I heard about it a day of. I was just searching through YouTube vids, and I looked at my daughter's like, holy crap, Sean Connery died. And she was like, who?
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
A lot of movies I grew up on, that dude's been a part of. James Bond, Indiana Jones, The Rock, even stupid movies like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which...
Okay, stupid movies, all right.
I like the movie. I've watched it multiple times. It's cheesy fun. But
yeah, that's... I think it was a good concept. It was well done. The special effects were a little wonky, even for the time. But it was overall a good movie, and it is reamed so hard.
It just seems any scene he's in, even if it's not a blockbuster movie, regardless of the movie, Sean Connery just steals the scene.
Yeah. Every
single time. Just somebody you can't keep your eyes off of. You can't, all his should, emphasis on the SH. I don't know if that's a Scottish thing or what that thing is, but accent. It's extremely appealing with him, and it's sad to watch.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play a little clip of some of his most memorable roles. Oh, it already just started. All right, let me. All right. Nah, I'm not gonna back it up that second. All right, so this is not everything. This doesn't include, I think, some of the James Bonds, because those were earlier in this montage. But I saw this section of videos and I'm like, yes, that's what I grew up watching. These movies.
Never overextend your thrust. You're vulnerable and off balance.
Jonas.
Oh, what's the matter? Can't you talk with a gun in your mouth? And don't let him clean himself till after he talks.
What books?
Pardon me?
What books did you write?
I wrote a biography of Admiral Halsey called The Fighting Sailor about naval combat tactics.
I know this book.
Torpedo impact.
Your conclusions were all wrong, Brian.
10 seconds.
Halsey acted stupidly.
I will not allow this wedding to proceed.
My lord, unless...
That greatest cameo, almost ever.
Allow him to give the bride away. The gradient cousin.
Yeah, that just came out of nowhere, Robin Hood.
Yeah.
We are deeply honored, Your Majesty. It is I who have honored Lord Loxley. Thanks to you, I still have the throne.
I'd like to see...
And unlike Kevin Costner, he actually seems like he actually fits in the time period.
Yeah, so that's what I was just about to say. He's not... they mention, what's his name? It's not Prince John and King Richard, right? Yeah. Richard Lionheart. So that's who he's supposed to be. He just comes out of nowhere. They mention
Yeah,
him.
the last minute of the film, or it's
Oh,
like
That's definitely Richard the Lionheart. Like he just
yeah,
opens his mouth and bam, he fits the role.
yeah, and there's numerous credits in his IMDb where it's medieval period pieces, and he seems to fit like it seems like that's where he belongs. I mean, maybe not. I mean, because granted, then he also does James Bond, and you're like that he is James Bond. I mean, I enjoyed the Daniel Craig series of Bond films, but that's because they were cool action films. But they still don't quite feel like Bond films. The only ones who are actually Bond films are it's Sean Connery. He is Bond.
Connery, ladies' man, uber suave, had the cheesiness, but still had the suave to back it up.
Yeah,
That was Bond back in the day.
yeah.
All my first Bond films were with Sean Connery.
Yeah,
I watched the rest
Pierce
like
Brosnan does the cheesy lines, but they're odd. Like man, they feel so out of place in those movies. The rest of the movies are kind of good, but when he delivers that cheesy like one-liner, just like this is
Yeah, it's believable out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Everyone else you're just like, cringe. He says it, you're like,
yeah,
that's actually believable. Yeah, I could see him saying that, and I could see women swooning over that.
yeah. So I think the best Bond films, like overall, I think were the Daniel Craig ones. And the Pierce Brosnan ones is because there was a lot of the earlier Bonds had a lot of cheesy effects and just terrible plots and stuff like that. But the best Bonds, the ranking is Sean Connery, Timothy Dalton, then Pierce Brosnan, then Daniel Craig, and then what's the other guy's name? Wasn't Roger Moore, was it? Is that the other guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He only did the one, I think.
He did like one or two, but yeah, he did not. He didn't fit the role of Bond. So that's my ranking of people that when you see them, you're like, okay, that guy's James Bond. But the films that they're in didn't always match with, But
The
as far as
James Bond was trying to be,
yeah. So I think the Daniel Craig series overall were the best Bond films. But if you're talking about the best Bond, like, had Sean Connery been Bond in the newer versions, like Casino Royale, had he been the right age with the technology, yeah, those would have been much better films overall. I mean, no offense to Daniel Craig, but he's no Sean Connery. It's just,
that would have probably been, I don't know, that would have probably been too much. Like the accent, the charisma, and then you just have this like over the top badass. You say something wrong to me, I'm just going to punch you in the face right then, like that.
Yeah.
That brutal that was in the Craig films.
mm-hmm.
I think that still could have fit with Sean Connery's character because he presented that machismo. He kind of embodied that. It was
so
that's a guy.
Yeah. So a kind of a cross between the two is The Rock, because that's where he's playing kind of a British spy, but he is doing the more brutal, and it's got the technology to back it up, and it's the special effects and Michael Bay over the top explosions everywhere, and I was like, that The Rock is such a good movie because it's kind of like what if James Bond was in a modern movie, and then we'll throw Nick Cage in there just to add to the insanity.
Oh, I think so. I mean, Sean Connery just way outplayed Nick Cage.
Oh yeah,
Nick Cage is a mixed bag for me. I think The Rock is one of his best films, but Sean Connery just next tier up, easy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that The Rock was a great film, and without Sean Connery, it would have been a meh.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I mean, you saw there the classic role Highlander, same thing. Highlander without Sean Connery's character Ramirez showing up and being there, the whole rest of the movie kind of drags and is so slow. People would have lost interest and never, the film would have been lost to obscurity. But it's because of him. He was so popular, and so they had to bring him back in the sequel. Even though the sequel,
randomly sprung to life in the second one.
It made no sense given how the mythology of the Highlander series works. But the film they couldn't have gotten the film to even exist without Sean Connery. So
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Christopher Lambert, great guy as Highlander, fine. We can take his Nash character, but it's extremely dry and there's no subtext, there's no personality as to why do I even care if he is a Highlander,
Hmm.
other than his girlfriend died, back in the 1300s.
Yeah.
But then you have who taught him everything he needed to exist until now, and it kind of like sprung to life Nash's character just because you see where he came from, who taught him, who gave him those values, who gave him the principles of being a Highlander, like not just going out killing because, but simply for honor and justice and to be the one because you are the one, not just brutally killing. So yeah, you're exactly right. His character just it added the life to the movie, and without that, it would have been pretty dead.
Yeah. And I was watching some of these montages of Sean Connery stuff, trying to find a good clip that was kind of. And this is what I mean. This is a 8-minute long, and I only showed like I think a minute of this, of just kind of his more famous roles. And one of them was The Hunt for Red October, and there's a commentary that was going along with it, and so they said, yeah, only Sean Connery could pull off being a Russian double agent where you're not sure if they are coming to attack us or to defect, and do the entire time with a thick Scottish accent. I'm like, yeah, I didn't even notice that in the film. It's so bizarre once you're like, oh wait a minute, he's supposed to be a Russian spy. What? And he has his thick Scottish accent through the entire film, and I'm like, but I still love The Hunt for Red October. I think it's a great film.
Yeah, well, it's because he plays everything with a very sincere conviction. You feel as if that's the
Yeah.
way the character would have said it. Even in Last Crusades, he's playing a silly character like Indy's dad.
Yeah.
But there are times when he slaps him across the face, points his finger and says, "Here's what you got to decide," and then it becomes completely somber. Like he shifts the entire tone.
Yeah.
Because the way he's talking.
Yeah. So he brought believability to what would otherwise be completely ridiculous, absurd roles, and it's a very very unique trait amongst actors. And one of the crazier things is there's a lot of actors who kind of do this, but they do this by losing themselves in the role. Like I think Gary Oldman is one of these actors. He's very convincing in his portrayals, but in order to be convincing, he disappears, and the character becomes, in the film in order to be believable. But Sean Connery was always Sean Connery, but whatever role he was playing was it's like this doesn't seem like acting. This is legitimately that him and that character. So he's one of those few actors that can pull that that could pull that off. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had enough screen presence and dominance to where the character started to meld into Sean Connery versus the other way around. So
Yes.
Daniel Day-Lewis is a
I think he's overrated, but method actor.
method actor, right? They just indulge themselves so much into trying to lose themselves in the character. He was kind of like, if he just talked about anything, like he could be talking about watching The Simpsons or a sitcom or what he did for that day, what he had for breakfast, you would be enthralled. It was just,
Yeah.
he's one of those kind of people where the more they talk, the more you're like, I would like to listen. Thanks. What else did you do this morning?
Yeah. But he had a pretty lengthy film career, and unfortunately League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was his last film role, and after that bombed at the box office, he decided to step away from acting, and he lived to a good old age of 90. So he had a good run, and his legacy, or he will be missed, but his legacy will live on. And it's a pretty good career considering he had. I mean, he was kind of. There's a period of about 20 years where he was kind of like went back to obscurity. So there was the Bond films that kind of skyrocketed him, and then he kind of disappeared until the Untouchables, and then he had this resurgent where you're seeing him, the older Sean Connery, in these iconic roles. So,
Yep.
Yeah, he's one of those few actors that managed to do that, maintain that pretty steady career throughout his entire acting career. Because some they rise to stardom and then disappear. And then maybe they'll have some bit roles here and there, but nothing ever close to what they had before. But I think once he got older, his roles, I think, supersede his James Bond roles. Like the older Sean Connery films, or the films where he is older, I should say. I think those stand up a little better than the roles as Bond. And like, yeah, it just shows that he improved over time. And I've seen so many tribute pictures with that Zardoz or whatever, where it's just him in a mankini and a ridiculous mustache.
That leather and cloth red strap.
Zordoz or whatever that. Yeah. So I was like, I thought about putting that in here, but I was like, yeah, I better. It's that yeah. I don't know if he pulled it off for that film, but that.
See, I don't know what it is, but I did see a lot of tweets after he passed away, and there were a lot of people saying, "Hey, what a great actor!" I remember growing up, and there was like this mass swath of just ignorant a-holes stomping on his grave the day he passed away and saying "good riddance" and all this other terrible.
Why?
Well, because he held standard masochistic beliefs, or like so he had that one interview where they were asking, would he ever hit a woman? He said, yeah, I would. If she deserved it, I would hit a woman.
Yeah.
He was a piece of crap for that, but if you actually listen to what he's saying, he didn't say he wanted to hit women. He just said, why am I going to treat her any different than I would someone else? Mouthing off. If you deserve it, you deserve it, and so I'm going to hit you. Just
Yeah, and I guess we live in we live in 2020, where women can never do anything wrong.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that was the most appropriate comment, but that is a.
Well, okay, yeah. So there's a Daniel Tosh joke. Yeah, so this is probably gonna get YouTube banned or whatever. There's a Daniel Tosh joke that kind of it super highlights that aspect. And he said he's watching an ad, and he's like, there's no excuse for domestic violence. And he's like, well, what if you come home after work and she's drowned 2 of your kids and she's about to drown child number 3? Can you hit her then? It's like...
Sure. Or you can working your butt off and she's screwing the neighbor. Are you allowed to get angry? Are you allowed to do something about it? Yeah. So that's kind of where Sean Connery was coming from. He didn't say he wants to hit women, nor did he say he ever has. He just said if it's the right situation and it was warranted, he would. He wouldn't hold himself back. And then I was like, dude, that's kind of that's kind of what a man's supposed to do, I guess. Like, what else are you gonna do? Sit there and be a cuck?
And if you look at a lot of those, the older films, where it was I'm thinking back to the noir films and stuff like that, and Gone with the Wind, where there's usually a scene where the guy backhands the woman, and then then there's a makeout scene or whatever it is afterwards. And, well, but it's always a situation where it's like, okay, all he did was backhand her across the face. It's not like he punched her or was beating the crap out of it. You're like, okay, yes, he backhanded her and her face was sore. But he's a guy, and he could easily just shove her through a door or something like that and toss her around like a rag doll. And yet he shows the restraint of just okay, you're being ridiculous right now, calm down, or whatever the situation is. Sometimes it's used as okay, he didn't need to. But even in those films, the women were like, okay, yeah, you put me in my place. All right, I'm yours. So it's kind of like,
yeah. I would say on the one hand, Sean Connery kind of represented that type of idea, which is why a lot of people were trashing him and saying, hey, this old misogynistic, this is what we've been presented. Look at James Bond manipulating all these women and having, going around and wooing them and sleeping around, and he didn't actually care. He's just a ladies' man. And these terrible things. And I'm like, it's one, that's James Bond, not Sean Connery. Two, that's James Bond, not Sean Connery. That's a really fake character. But three, Sean Connery could have probably actually pulled it off. You know how many women thought he was sexy in his 60s?
Yeah.
Like, a lot. Ridiculous amounts. 20-year-olds thinking Sean Connery's sexy in his 60s. That dude just like had something.
Yeah,
Jeez.
he had machismo.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
accent, just I don't care what you think. I'll do what I want to do, and you're just gonna go along with it because I said so.
Well, and the crazy thing is, so James Bond, they're acting like, okay, he's terrible because he's a womanizer, and it's these same people. They're also like, women should be able to sleep with whoever they want and have no strength. They're like, what? That's what you want. You want a woman to be able to sleep with a guy and have no strings attached, and just for her to go somewhere else. It's like, what is he gonna do? Is he supposed to only limit himself to her? Because, like, no, what you want is for women to sleep around freely. That's what you guys are advocating. And that's the role of James Bond was doing.
Sean Connery wasn't really a womanizer. If he was in a relationship, it was a relationship.
So
And
I'm
he
saying the character James
hard
Bond.
to say in it. So they're comparing the James Bond representation with the actual person, and
Yeah. But even in the situation where it's James Bond, is all of the women that he slept with in the James Bond film, weren't they exercising their feminist power to sleep with whoever they want freely?
So, yeah. So it's yeah.
So I think it's the idea that women should be able to sleep with whoever they want freely, but guys are limited to just the one woman. Is that what they're trying to say? Because I mean, if she's just gonna sleep with James Bond once and then go out and bang some other dude, what is James Bond supposed to do? Just be like, oh, well, she got away. Oh, there's another woman who's trying to throw herself at me. Oh, but I already had sex with what's-her-face.
No, I think the new concept of James Bond is where he's too old and feeble to understand what's happening. He becomes the secondary comedic partner.
Oh, actually, that...
I think that's what they were planning on with the next fourth.
Yeah, if you've seen the stuff they're talking about there is a new 007, but because the 007 is a agent identifier.
Sure, agent number.
And then she was supposed to take over the mantle, and then he's kind of at the end of his James Bond career, and she's supposed to upstage him. Or at least that's what people are saying about the more recent film. And he's like, okay, I don't know why that was even considered as a James Bond plot line. Nobody would be interested in that.
If he's already that feeble and incapable, and she's already that much ahead of him, why the hell is he tagging along? What experiences is he going to weigh in on and say, I have something to offer? He doesn't. It makes him just the guy to slap around and make a fool of. That's it.
Yeah.
His entire legacy is now down the toilet.
All right.
How he got to that position, who knows? So all I can say is that for Sean Connery, it's unfortunate of his passing. I am very glad he got to live to the ripe old age of 90. That's awesome. I didn't even realize he had gotten that old, but
because he's one of those people that when we were young, he was already old.
Oh yeah, I mean, I watched Highlander. He already had a gray beard. I'm just like, been old since I knew what old was.
Yeah. So and he didn't seem to age at all from like 1980 until 2015. It's like, dude, he looks like the same age for like 40 years. So
yeah. So I would say a good commemoration to his acting career, his influence he had, and then sad to watch someone go, but it is also good to see that he was able to live a long life and
All right. Yeah, so I ended up talking longer on that topic than I planned, but we'll go ahead and move on to more I guess time relevant things with the election. And so this is the third debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Joe Biden! Biden! Donald!
It's the DJT, getting it on. The Teflon Don on the White House lawn. Against wimps like you, I'll win a third term. Your campaign's like your family. Crash and burn. Looting and violence will keep the MAGA movement quiet. Resist me? That's a riot. Why'd you step behind the gym? I'll be standing by. See how tough you are against the 45. I should've hoped for your whole party. Bigger than the one I blew through, cause I'm so money. Then I go and bone on Milani. I'm gonna smash you, Joe. Like China. I got all the best cognition with all the top grammar. I'm not a little girl's shoulders, so you can't touch this MC stammer. You're a disaster inciting hysteria. You say I'm selling hate in America, you're selling hate in America. Like with Hillary, the people aren't swayed,
Dude,
just
this
for
is
our
awesome.
shadow. And I don't really like the shade.
The pain of losing loved ones is something I've seen. So I know how you must have felt when they killed Jeffrey Epstein. Right there, just ain't for you. You should send love letters for Kim Jong-un. You're a wrestling heel. Nothing about you's real. But you didn't even really write the art of the deal. But you tapped into the rage of red Mad Hatters. Well, let me tell you, Trump, all lives matter. I don't want to defund no police. I picked a DA for my VP. I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I'm just an old ass man with some decency. No matter what you try to say, global warming ain't cancer. You pulled out a parachute, have pulled out a Stormy Daniels. I ain't sleepy, I'm tired. Of you, Donald Trump, you're
The
fired.
only thing getting fired.
Alright, yeah, I'm not gonna play the full thing, but yeah, this was... Because I've been watching the... Shomo, whatever the... You know, the guys that auto-tune the news guys. They've been...
Polo or something like that.
Yeah. Those were so one-sided. But so this one, these guys at Epic Rap Battles, they're throwing punches on both sides. They're treating it. I didn't see them favoring one side over the other. There was a bunch of things that the Joe Biden character says that are just like, yeah, those are flat out wrong. But considering this is even-handed, I'm like, okay, these are, the Nice Peter guy probably believes a lot of that stuff. So I was like, okay, I can understand that. I disagree with almost everything that was in the Biden spiel, but it's like, okay, at least they're giving them both. Yeah.
Actually kind of funny because that made sense.
Yeah. Should have pulled out a Stormy Daniels. Yeah. So there, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, there's punches thrown on both sides. And I was like, that's why I was like, yeah, this is how you're supposed to do this type of comedy, because again, neither side comes out the clear winner. So yeah, this much more enjoyable than the actual debate. I watched the actual debate, like both the live, and then I watched it through Crowder's stream, and I'm like, this is so annoying to hear Joe lie so many times, and the moderator doesn't call him on it. And a lot of people were saying the third debate, the moderator was much more of a moderator, and that's true to an extent. But what Crowder pointed out and what other people were pointing out is when she started hammering somebody on what they were saying, it was always on Trump. It was like, oh, you explain that, define that. Yeah, that doesn't seem clear. Yeah, but what about this? It's like she kept digging deeper into what he was saying, and then Joe Biden would say something ridiculous. And there's no follow-up questions. And you're just like, what? Wait, how is there no follow-up questions? What he just said? What he just said makes no sense at all. How are...
Well, I would say for the most part, except for the one where Joe was saying, what was it? He's going to get completely rid of fossil fuels. And then the moderator like, why would you do that?
Yeah, that was...
that came out of nowhere. You're just like, I was thinking it, but I didn't expect you to say that.
Yeah, that's what she said. She's like, why would you do that? And then Biden is like, oh yeah, because fossil fuel, and you can see like, okay, he's answering that as if, why would you get rid of fossil fuel? And they're like, well, duh, but why would you say that? It seemed like her question.
Yeah, it's either why would you do that because it's absurd, or why would you do that because you're giving away a terrible position? You shouldn't have said it. You should have just alluded to things, and I don't know what she was.
Yeah, and then but his answer was like, "Oh yeah, because fossil fuels are polluting."
Because weird questions like, did she just actually ask what I was asking? And I don't think she. What happened?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? So
yeah,
I mean,
but so one of the things Trump said was about the they're getting ready to release the vaccine, and she was questioning on them. Okay, well, how is this possible that they're going to have it out with it? Because there's other people that are saying it's not going to be out until next year, and then we're not going to be able to deliver it to this many people. And he's like, I'm talking with the creators of the vaccine. They're saying they can have it by by the end of the year, and we're going to use the military to distribute it. Other people outside of that saying anything about they don't know what. How could they possibly know more? That's yeah. So there was, yeah, he's been saying it possibly could have been, could have been a vaccine out there in October or November. I mean, I'm still of the same opinion I was in February. We don't need a vaccine. The therapeutics we have right now are keeping the death tolls and the hospitalizations in line, very similar to the flu. And this is something I heard yesterday. I don't have a link for this, but I was so this was on Sunday. I was watching Beauty and the Beta, and they brought up these results, and they're saying, according to the World Health Organization, flu deaths are down 90% for the year. And you're just like, what? Wait a minute. The number of flu deaths being reported to the WHO are down 90% in places where they usually one of these examples, I think this was I don't remember which country this was, but they said, yeah, last year they had 7,000 deaths. This year there's only 700 flu deaths. And you're like, that's because the difference is being counted as a COVID death. It's
what happened to the average? Like, where do you think those other who would have normally been dead, where did they go? It obviously got to be attributed to COVID, as in we are now meshing the two together. The common cold, or what used to be standard influenza, is being wiped off the books as if, hey, remember that? Getting common cold? Nah, never mind. The cough syrup you used to get at whatever grocery store, never mind that. It's just now COVID. None of that existed. Now this is the next thing, except for it's much worse. It took over. It eradicated it. But if it's the same death rate, if it's the same toll, it simply would.
So
it would seem to mean that those most acceptable have died off, and it's unfortunate, and that's a terrible thing. We couldn't help them, but then it also means that the rest of the populace is either already has immunities or is not really that susceptible, and we're now back at stage one, like common flu. It is now nothing more than that.
Yeah, that's and I was I don't know if you were available on those streams, but I went over the excess death tables that are available, and the United States is, considering their per capita excess deaths, we are doing much better than other countries like Italy and some of these countries in the European Union that people keep saying, oh yeah, the America's doing so terrible, and I'm like, our excess deaths are lower than other countries. So what happens is we might have a larger number of reported COVID deaths than any other country, but we also have lower death rates. We're seeing lower death rates in almost every other category. Meaning, it's like, but then we see a jump in the excess deaths whenever the riots started. And if you look at the actual excess death tables, and they talk about how many cases of COVID that were identified and declared as deaths during that same amount of time, they don't account for that excess deaths. And so if you look at the actual number of suicides, drug overdoses, heart failures, cancers, and things like that, those deaths are exceeding their usual mortality rates. And you're like, okay, those numbers combined kind of account for those excess deaths on top that are showing this huge spike in excess deaths since I think those started in June or July. And it's like, and if you're talking to anybody other than Fauci, they talk about those excess deaths being because of lockdowns. And you're like, had we not done the lockdowns, our mortality rates in the U.S. would be very similar to just last year. I mean, granted, it would be higher by like 10 or 10 to 15%, but right now we're seeing like a 20 or 30%, or 20 to 25%, I think, on those excess mortality charts. And that extra 10 to 15% is coming from the lockdown measures themselves. It is bizarre. And Fauci, a couple of days ago, just came out and endorsed Biden. It's like, dude, that guy has been
So they've been talking about these projection numbers, and we have just a little higher than 200,000 deaths that are attributed to COVID deaths. And Biden's been running around since early October, still saying, there's an expected 200,000 other people that are going to die.
Are you sure you said 200 and not 2 million?
Well, he probably said 2 million at one point. I'm just going to go with a realistic estimate. But from October to December, he's really expecting the same amount of people to die, even though we already have, people wearing masks, social distancing regulations, and pretty much everywhere. Where would that 200,000 come from? Like, there is no uptick right now in anything being reported as we have a massive spike in infected and death rates. None of that's being reported. I'm sure if it was happening, mainstream media would have already been all over it. They may be reporting, an uptick on cases of infection rate.
That's the thing, is that they switched it to talking about cases and not death rates.
And then the story drops because nobody's dying like they expected.
Yeah.
Turns out people are now just getting over it. Trump went to the hospital for 2 days?
Yeah,
came
for a weekend.
He's almost 80 and he's fine. It almost seems like the mass hysteria where we were lumping old people into old folks' homes and blocking in with other infected people was probably the worst of it, and that was just out of stupid planning and stupid decision making.
Yeah, so between Whitmer and Cuomo, you're probably looking at somewhere between 30 and 50,000 deaths directly responsible.
Yeah, I think just those two caused a quarter of the deaths in the U.S. from COVID, just because they said lock the infected old people up with the rest.
No, it's not just they put infected old people into nursing homes. They put anybody who was infected into nursing homes. They put young, this was the Crowder went to the Capitol of Whitmer, and so there's a video of this 20-something-year-old dude who goes into a nursing home and he is he's punching this old guy. And the old guy ended up dying. I don't remember if it was... so the old guy got just beat up and pummeled by this 20-year-old something. And the only reason the 20-something guy was in the nursing home is because he had COVID. And the old man ended up dying, not from COVID, but from this guy beating him up. And he's like, what? So I don't know if he died as a result of the injuries or if he ended up committing suicide because he was being battered repeatedly by this 20-something-year-old dude. And none of the staff in the hospital were helping him. None of them were separating the two, and I can't remember the exact, but I know he ended up dying a few days later, and that's like, why are you putting young people into nursing homes?
Ever. Just ever.
Yeah.
Zero reason to do that, ever.
Yeah, and they were putting people...
housing units, plenty of other places. Now they're already putting homeless people in, hotels.
Yeah.
He's paying for that, they were even paying for that before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you shoving COVID-infected people into nursing homes? No. And we already knew back in March that the older were more susceptible. This was known when that happened. It's not like that was a new oops.
Yeah. And that was something... Yeah, that was a talking point. Was like, okay, you may be fine from COVID, but what about your grandparents? And it's like... Well, you are acknowledging that the death rates overwhelmingly impact the elderly.
Yeah.
So what you're supposed to do is you isolate the elderly and let everybody else go about their lives. But
correct.
They did the exact opposite. They isolated the elderly and then put infected people with them. And it's like, okay, the only reason you would do that is because you're trying to kill the elderly.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the intent was. All I can see is the aftermath of which didn't come from President Trump, didn't come from federal government, came from statewide legislature in New York. And I think there was
New York, New Jersey, and where's Whitmer from? Is that Michigan? No, it's Wisconsin. Whitmer. What state? I think it's Michigan. Yeah. So Whitmer's from Michigan.
Yeah, but there was 5 places where they followed suit, or 4 places that followed suit with New York and did the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's about half the deaths we have COVID related in the country.
Yeah.
Not because of outbreaks, not because of inadequate medical facilities, it's because infected people were forcefully put into confined areas with elderly who are more susceptible.
Yeah.
It's half the deaths.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't even be at 200,000. We would be at 100,000 had they just followed what the CDC originally said, even what Dr. Fauci originally said, regardless of the masks.
Yep.
Already knew it affected older people. Don't put infected near older people.
All right. And so I've got a clip of Joe Biden talking about some of the math, both in regarding taxes and also I think the excess death is part of this clip or should be.
Him and math.
From $1.5 trillion to 2.5 to 3 trillion. I mean, it should be 3 billion. Billions of gallons of gasoline. I mean, billions of.
$1.6 trillion more. $1.4 trillion.
I think it's $2.3 billion worth of. Excuse me, $500 billion.
$1.4 billion. That should be $1.4 trillion.
This is ridiculous.
Billion dollars. 200 million. The 200,000. 6,344,700. 30330. 1,189,506. And 2 point something billion metric tons. 200 million people have died.
Yeah, that's where he said 200 million people.
And 20 million back.
2/3 of the
back
country.
in the workforce. From the time I got to the Senate 180 years ago.
That was the best one.
180 years ago.
I was like, dude, this is the guy. Oh, okay. Well, while I'm here and thinking about it, let's see how they're doing. All right, so we're starting to see some solid states. So you can see this, right? This is broadcasting to the Hangout.
Yep. I see the video you were just playing. I'm not seeing
but you don't see the result. Hang on a second. Let me swap those to. Whoops, wrong screen. All right, let me pull this in here. Okay, so we were starting to see some of the results in. Okay, looks like Biden had Illinois. That was kind of guaranteed. Virginia, that was pretty much, Okay.
This looks like the same thing from 2016.
Wait, what? What? Are you seeing this? 38.7%. They're calling it for Biden.
Actually, yeah. I'm just. What the hell is that?
What?
What is?
So he won Virginia with about just under 3,000 less votes than Trump.
Hover over the other states. Like what is that? How?
Okay, so the Illinois, we kind of figured that was going to Trump.
Yeah, 60 to 40%. That would make sense.
Trump and Biden. Florida was going to be close, but I think it's going Trump. Close. Georgia, Trump has a pretty substantial lead.
10%.
Okay. That's a moderate lead in South Carolina. They're calling it for South Carolina. Okay, this is backwards too. Wait, how are they calling this with 1% reporting? Look at this. That's 2,000 2,000 people. They're calling it for Trump. What?
What are we looking at here? Where is this coming from?
This is the Associated Press. That's who I looked at was using as. Okay, this one they're calling for Trump, and there's no reported votes. So that was the other thing. I was like, I don't know.
So maybe the winner is just who they're anticipating, but only showing recorded votes, but assuming more. I don't know. That's a weird thing to put out there. Like, why?
Yeah, if Joe Biden gets Texas, it's all over. But what? He's ahead in Texas. All right, maybe this is not a good source of this. Maybe I'll have to switch to a different one.
But if you remember back in 2016, it's only 7 here, Central Time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Eastern
the results will change.
massive shift happened around what, between 9 and 11
Yeah.
Central Time?
Yeah, it was about 9:30 to 10 o'clock is when it started just overwhelming it, and then that's when people were like, "Oh no, Trump's gonna win." Yeah,
That's when all the people got off work. They went to vote, and then it took an hour or two to tabulate all the votes.
yeah, maybe, yeah.
So right now, no clue, but I mean that
The Associated Press is reporting some weird stuff. So
if they're showing like 30% versus 60, and 30% is the winner, I don't understand what they're doing there. I'm guessing it's projected winner and trying to show current votes, but holding off as in those statistics may change, which I don't know how that's considered reporting at all. Why wouldn't you just show current statistics and not estimate a vote until the majority of
I'll try to find a better live tracker than that. Oh, so this is Oh, yeah, I don't have that pulled up on your screen. Yeah, but yeah, man, I can't believe the 330 guy is
330.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to.
I think we're gonna see something very similar to 2016 because it was a heated race, like right up until the end, and all of a sudden Republicans, bam, like once states actually started fully tallying and reporting who came in on election day, that's when things shifted. Right now we're looking at like estimates, projections, and early voting.
Yeah. So I don't know why this chart is messed up the way it is. Try to find a better source for.
You got the pumpkin one. Is that where he's like saying
this one is awesome.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
And the best comment I heard about that is like, man, Joe Biden has been in Congress or has been in politics for 47 years, and just now he's breaking out the true to bad bit of pressure. He had 47 years to enact that.
I don't think I've ever heard Trump advocate or mobilize the pressure. So I think maybe I'm switching to Biden now.
I don't know that's
asking for that. So
yeah,
obviously Trump doesn't care about that.
No, I don't know. I've heard so many people trying to consider what he was talking about there is true international pressure, but like, because then he starts talking about international politics after that, but it's like, what?
Yeah, I have no clue. And so there are some times where you can hear him kind of stumbling, like trying to catch up with his thoughts, but there's so many other times where it's like, what the? Where did you even go for a moment? I saw a video a couple of days ago where I don't know where he was, but he was talking about, he's like, yeah, I hope to see these young girls dancing before and 2-year-olds. And I'm like, what is he? Who's he talking to?
Yeah. So the other one that people are talking about is the bad-calf care. So those those are things that were in his more recent rallies.
That's going to replace Obamacare, the bad-calf care. That's his plan.
Yep. All right. So while we're talking about people, so this is something that has been kind of in the back of my mind for a while because I keep talking about Joe Biden. Well, all of these gaffes and stuff, he's got a stutter, and if you're making fun of him for this, you're making fun of his stutter. And I'm like, no, there is somebody in politics who has a very noticeable stutter, and it drives me crazy because he has a podcast, and it's one of the the widest spread podcasts in the world, but
this is a president who refuses to say the words.
That's all, folks.
Want, because as a general rule, whatever the people.
Switch to the next video.
This is a president who refuses to say the words.
Yeah, like Ted Cruz that has a Porky Pig stammer. He does this all the time in the Verdict podcast. It drives me crazy.
Really?
Oh, yeah, no.
I actually never noticed.
Once you notice it, it's like it's like, yeah, it's like, as I do it, while he's doing the podcast, it's like every 5 minutes that he does this, this thing. And I'm like, nobody calls it out. Nobody talks about that. And I'm like, that's a stammer. That's a stutter. What he's doing right there is because he can't get the word out, and his mind, that's a stutter. What Joe Biden is doing, bad at calf care. Where's the stutter in that?
Oh.
I'm not making. It's kind of making fun of.
Look that up about Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of his speeches, the Senate hearings, all kinds of stuff.
It's like every 5 minutes that he does this, and it once you notice it, it is, it's so infuriating. You're like, man, just spit it out. But I understand it's something outside of his control.
Maybe that's why I never, I don't know.
That you take that and compare that with Biden, you're like, one is an obvious stutter. What Biden is doing is, who knows what that is? Calling that a stutter is an insult to people with a stutter.
Correct. The people with the stutter tend to repeat the same syllable or the same sound for, a couple of phrases before they move on to whatever it is.
So they either get to finish that word or they switch to a synonym because they can't get that word out, but they're like, yeah, this is what I'm trying to communicate, and they switch. And this happens,
For Biden, he's just saying nonsensical things.
A stutter doesn't account saying 200,000 or it's 200 million when you mean 200,000. It doesn't account for calling your wife your sister or saying Kamala Harris's wife.
Or that he's running for Senate.
Yeah.
Or
that we can't stand another 4 years of George.
Yeah. Big difference between mentally understanding where the sentence is going and not physically being able to speak it. So that's the difference between a stutter and what we're seeing with Joe Biden. And the difference is, I guess, if you pointed out with Ted Cruz, if I were to look back at, the last 10 years of any video clips, I could probably notice the stutter there. I never noticed, so this is the first time I heard of it. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's one of those things that...
I have looked back at previous Biden videos.
Oh, yeah.
There was no stutter. There was none of that. At all. Not even 10 years ago. He did not talk like he does now. So something else is going on.
All right, so I'm trying to
also
find...
where sometimes he'll be in a debate or a rally or whatever, and he seems really cognizant. And there are other ones where he's ready to call it quits by the time he starts talking, and you just no idea what he's talking about, and it's, 5-minute round.
Or that one PSA is like, Trump calls me sleepy, but we'll see who's sleepy. It's like he's so deadpan and monotone when he delivers that, and you're like...
Yeah, and you're like, dude, I think you actually need a nap. What are you Or, what was that? He won, was it Iowa? I know it was like a North Midwestern. He got done. There was nobody there, and he walked up and started peeking in his truck, and it was just a random person's truck. It wasn't his escort. It was nobody. And he's just walking around, and everyone's pointing the opposite direction, go over there. And he's just walking around looking what? That's not a stutter. It's something else. You don't stutter by walking around and looking at random vehicles. That's not a stutter. It's something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like cognitive decline, but...
I think so. And the terrible thing is they can't let it go because they don't want to lose. Or two, they're really pushing it because if he gets in and wins, what happens after? How many months before cognitive decline catches up and he cannot be president? And now Kamala's president.
I mean,
and it's even
months.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm predicting days because days or weeks. I don't think they're going to let him be president for months. I think they're.
I mean, if they think they got ridiculous riots now, if for some reason Joe Biden wins, is considered cognitively not capable of being a president within days of being elected, you think Republicans are going to be sitting around saying, well, 4 more years?
All right.
I don't think so. That sounds like the worst kind of cheating and underhanded whatever is going on.
So you're seeing this too. So this is Fox News. They're doing the same thing. Trump has 59% of the Virginia vote, and they're calling it for Biden.
Yeah, so they're probably coming from the same feed. I don't even know what that means. Is that from, are they saying who won last year and who's the percentage this year? Or
no, this is I checked all this earlier today. So at noon, all of these showed 0% across the board for all of these.
But so Maine says it's already closed. It's impossible for Joe to win with 12%. Just that's not. What does that mean? Does the check mark just only mean that Maine is closed? Maybe that's what the check mark.
No, because then the check mark would be for both of them. But the check mark is over Joe, and if you look at these red states, the check mark is for Trump. Oh wait, what?
Why is
there's a check mark for Trump, and he's got 60%.
For red.
So that has been Kentucky has been called for Trump since around 6 o'clock today. So the first two, so it was Vermont and Kentucky were the first two to close their polls and announce their winner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been steadily Joe Biden and Trump. Yeah, Joe Biden for Vermont, Trump for Kentucky. That's been consistent.
So why is Maine showing Joe winning with 12%?
I have no idea.
Like that's
okay. Trump was gonna win Missouri. That was kind of. But what they're showing here: 56% Joe Biden, 41% Trump. How?
Kansas, that's closed.
How are these? Who is doing these charts?
I don't know. Something doesn't.
Okay, now I guess maybe I didn't mouse over it correctly because now it's showing 61%. But this is.
Oh, you were looking at Kansas. Kansas is the one that showed black, as in.
Okay.
It said closed, not fully reported. I don't agree with that either.
Okay, so they say the polls are closed, but they're still tabulating the results. So that just means new votes aren't coming in, but they're still calculating the results that are in.
Correct. You don't have
the ones with the check marks. They're saying they've called the winner for their state.
That would be the guess, except for Maine, 12 to 80 something percent.
Yeah.
Like that's not even.
Well, and look at the number. The number they're showing here is 5 and 35. This is. How are they getting to the? How are they calling it for Biden without showing the results of why they call it for Biden? That's so bizarre.
Saying Trump has 85% lead. Like, what does that even mean? Don't know.
This did not happen last time, at least not to the best of my recollection. They didn't actually put a check mark over somebody until they're like, okay, they've got enough of the ballots, enough of the votes that are recognized that there's no way the opponent could win.
So maybe the check mark is only state that didn't allow mail-in ballots, like Missouri. They don't do pre-voting or early voting. They just show up at the polls and that's it. So maybe that's why they can do a check, is because nobody was mailed any ballots. Maybe in those other states they're saying, well, here are the current percentages. We'll give a check right now, but there's still mail-in ballots.
Yeah. So here's the other thing. So this, of the recorded votes in so far, Trump is ahead in the popular vote.
If they're going to do mail-in ballots and the date of the election is the date, wouldn't you think you'd have to have your ballot in a week or two before? They just can't open it or tabulate it, like early voting.
So I would think. So that's the kind of the odd thing. Do they not report any of the votes until after the polls are closed? Because that would kind of make sense, because that means they could start counting the votes prior to the polls closing, but they couldn't report those tallies until after the polls were closed.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how things are working out.
Because if they were doing it that way, that means that they could already have had all the mail-in votes accounted for before the polls close, and then as the polls close, they're like, okay, now we can count the votes that were that were hand delivered, or now we can actually start reporting on what we've counted so far.
Yeah, but if they counted those ahead of time, they knew what the percentage of mail-in votes were. Someone could leak that out ahead of time and say, well, here's what we've seen so far with early voting or with mail-in votes. That could cast some persuasion onto election day. So I could see why they wouldn't tabulate it. But like when I went to vote, it was an electronic sheet. It had a barcode. They scanned my license. They said, okay, here's your name. You're the one registered. They assigned it to that sheet. I filled out my junk. It went into a scanner. Bam, my name is now tied with those votes. You can do the same thing with mail-in votes. You don't have to know the final total, but something can be kept track of. You feed the mail-in votes through the same electronic sheets. As long as it's got the proper signature or whatever, you can still keep total of all of these. We got the technology. It's been around for decades now. Like, this is the same as the bubble reading cat test we did back in the 80s. Same technology. It's not new. They scan the darkened bubbles. So why can't they tabulate the mail-in votes? Except for you can't look at them. They're held outside of public view until election day. Then we already know what's come in. We already know what has arrived. And you have until the end of election day for the rest of your votes to come in. And they're, again, still scanned by the same machine as long as the signatures are there and everything's filled out and the postmark's there. And then done. We're done on the 3rd. Mail-in, absentee ballots actually have to arrive like a week or two before election day. If an absentee ballot arrived today, it's void. It's too late. You missed the deadline. So even on absentee ballots, any of them arriving today do not count. Why would these standard non-absentee mail-in ballots that are unaccounted for, have no security protocols behind it, why are we going to be tabulating those for the next week to 3 weeks?
I don't know. Now, 2 to 3 weeks is being optimistic. I've been saying 2 to 3 months, but it's because...
I can see it spanning out that far, but that is literally BS, because all the absentee ballots we've had for decades have had to been turned in 2 weeks before the electorate.
Yeah. So
the election
date. And then some states have fought that ballots could be counted if they're submitted up to a week after. Some were saying like 7 or 8 days after the election.
Nah.
But those were shut down so far. All the ones that went to the Supreme Court.
Every single one of those needs to be shut down. There's no contest where you say, hey, here's the end date. Oh, you had other things to do. You had life that got in the way and you couldn't make. We'll extend it 2 weeks just for you. At no point would that contest be valid. Every entry is now invalid because you allowed one person to vote after everyone else had to have their definitive vote in. It completely eliminates any sort of fairness, any sort of ruling. If you need to, extend the before date. Before everything must be tabulated. That's exactly why absentee ballots have to be mailed in and postmarked before 2 weeks before election day, to make sure there's at least 2 weeks buffer in case there's any mail slowdown or what. That's why that's built in, and it's worked out okay. So why this nonsense? Something is really screwy, and I don't like the thought of people claiming it's for democracy, and yet they're cheating every single odd and end to squirm their way into power in order to shift everything and say, well, I had to because this was the right thing to do. I think that is the attempt here. Cheat, manipulate, play the system, and scream and cry for everything you can possibly get out of it. Because simply playing by the rules, the vote's going the complete other way.
Yeah, that's it. And it's again, something I mentioned in previous videos, but that's always what the Democrats do, or leftists in general do this. they don't like the rules if the rules can allow them to lose. If they ever lose, the rules are broken, we need to change the rules. That's always the case. And there's a video that came out like a couple of days ago from the Gravel Institute. I don't know if you see, or Gravel Institute, I think is the. Have you seen those? They are the supposed counter to PragerU. That's that they set up their entire, and it's like PragerU is the counter narrative to MSN, mainstream media. They're the counter to the mainstream media that is spouting lies, and so that they created this channel called the Gravel Institute, and they do like little cartoonish 5-minute videos. But the one that they just had this week was from I forget if he was the editor or just a writer at Jacobin, and Jacobin is that socialist magazine. Hello? Oh, did I lose connection? Oh, he did lose connection, so his computer crashed. I will re-invite. In order to... Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's not broadcasting to the... Hello?
Let's see. Am I on?
I can hear you. So let me check the how that's coming through
Sorry.
the stream.
My PC ended up crashing, so sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
I figured that would happen.
All right, but yeah, as you were saying, so so this is something leftists always do. If the rules allow them to lose, the rules must be wrong, and they have to change the rules. That's every time they're like, "Wait a minute." So there's I was saying there's a video from the Gravel Institute. Have you heard of the Gravel Institute?
That I'm not sure.
Okay, so you know, you're familiar with PragerU, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the Gravel Institute was supposed to be the leftist counter to PragerU, and it's like, as opposed to all the mainstream media, not all the leftist organizations that already exist. They need one more, apparently, because there's not enough leftist propaganda out there, which PragerU was founded to counter. No, there's not enough of that, so they have to have this Gravel Institute. Anyway, they had a video this week talking about the Electoral College. And in the video, he acknowledges the Electoral College has only made the difference in who becomes president 5 times. Trump, George Bush, Andrew Jackson was Jackson lost to John Adams the first time. Cleveland lost to Hayes, and what was the third one?
Let's see.
Harrison. It was Tilden Harrison. So those are the 5. And I was going through, I was going through, or maybe I got those, Hayes and Cleveland were the 2 together, yeah. I was going through these, and I'm like, according to the Jacobin guy who was doing this the Gravel Institute video, the Electoral College was responsible for keeping slaveholders in charge. And I'm like, okay, Andrew Jackson, slaveholder, pro-slavery guy. He lost the election because of the Electoral College, and it went to John Adams. John Adams there's no family. His family were staunch abolitionists. He became president because of the Electoral College. And I'm like, okay, your first example of the Electoral College being the problem counters your point, you idiot. The second example, so it was Harrison and Tilden. That was the second example. Both of them fought for the North. Both of them were, or am I getting the 2 mixed up? Yeah, because I don't really know much about Hayes and Cleveland, and yeah, Grover Cleveland was later. Yeah. So this it would have been Benjamin Harrison, because his grandfather was Henry Harrison. So Benjamin Harrison, he was the guy who became president after Lincoln, but he fought for the North. He was a abolitionist. He was in favor. He ran as a Republican. So and they were the party of the abolitionists at that time. Okay, he became president because of the Electoral College. Again, you got another example. Your entire reason for being against the Electoral College doesn't make any sense, Jacobin and Gravel Institute, or Gravel, whatever. The next time it was Cleveland, and there it was Hayes. Hayes got in, and I don't know what their problem is with Cleveland over Hayes, or the other way around. So their entire argument, or his entire argument, was that the Electoral College was responsible for slaveholders being placed as president, and was for Jim Crow activists being president. And it's like, okay, in the Cleveland versus Hayes, both of them were from the North. One was from New York, one was from Indiana. They were both lawyers. None of them had anything to do with the Jim Crow South. The Electoral College deciding one way or the other had nothing to do with that. And so the other examples are Clinton and Trump. And I'm like, okay, the only pattern I see here is every time the Electoral College has voted contrary to the popular vote, it has been in favor of a Republican, or at least the Republican counterpoint at that point in time, and the Democrat side lost. That's the only reason they oppose the Electoral College, is because every time...
I guess one additional thing that might be worth looking at is, I know there's this older guy, I think he's a French guy, who has been very accurate in his presidential...
Oh, yeah. Helmet?
But was saying,
Helmet Northquist, I think?
Ebb and flow, where the country will swing more like a, I guess, libertarian or more left for a time period. Things will get too restrictive or too dogmatic, and it'll swing back more conservative. And so that's why we're seeing typically 2-year terms, and then it switches to the opposing party for another 2-year terms. And that, it's kind of like a pendulum swinging back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, but that is a good posturing or something to look at, as in that's the majority of the case. If that's so, couldn't we also look at the few times where the Electoral College won over the popular vote? Was that one of these swing periods where it had been one party for a while and the country was wanting to swing over, but the popular vote was swayed?
So with the exception of the first one, which was Adams versus Jackson, because what Adams was the third. This was early on in the U.S. history.
No, John Adams. I thought he was the second president.
It might have been the second. I don't remember. I don't remember if this was John Adams or John Quincy Adams, though. So.
Gotcha.
I'll have to look it up. But so it might have been the second presidential election where the Electoral College played the difference. Actually, yeah. So you're right. You're right. It was John Adams, not John Quincy. So yeah, this would have been the second. So yeah, second president. So they've had George Washington and then John Adams. John Adams and George Washington were very much on the same lines politically. So the thing is Andrew Jackson became president after that. So the next election, Jackson becomes president. So that was the sway back more towards, I guess, and he was a Democrat at the time, which wasn't the official Democrat Party, but at that time the parties they were still forming. So it wasn't until Lincoln that there was actually that clear division between Republican and Democrat. Before that, it's kind of a little less clear because the actual party of Jefferson was the Democratic Republican Party, which split off and became the Whigs and then the Democrats. But the side of Andrew Jackson, because he was a Democratic Republican, and his party went on to become what is now the Democrats. and then John Adams, even though I think he was also I think they were both in the same party. I don't remember if that maybe the parties didn't exist then. It's a little hard to keep track of, and I'm not familiar with this particular incident. And I just looked at this stuff like yesterday or the day before, and not in thorough detail. It's just to dismiss kind of. I was like, dude, this video is absolute nonsense. Yeah. But yeah, so like the other example is Cleveland. So Cleveland was president. Hayes becomes president because of the Electoral College. The next year, Cleveland becomes president again. So it is the Electoral College. Every time it has come into play, other than the first instance because it was too new, every other incident is because, okay, there was a period where it was the other side that was winning. The Electoral College determines the vote against the popular vote, and it swings the opposite way. It goes to the other party for at least one term. In the case of Bush, it got him his first term, and then he won the popular vote the second time. So, and with Trump, based on the results so far, Trump's dominating the popular vote right now, but we don't have all the results in. So Fox right now sitting at 91 for Biden, 73 for Trump. CNN is 30 and 42. That seems maybe they're much slower at calling this on CNN. Yeah, they've got Biden with 30 and Trump with 42. The Associated Press right now is showing 85 for Biden and 61 for Trump.
So I do have a theory on this, and it's kind of like that pendulum swinging theory, but it seems popular vote, majority of the voters come from massively dense urban areas. And when it comes down to the Electoral College, those who win the Electoral College is because they pretty much win the rural areas, and then there are those districts that kind of outlie city areas but are not quite connected. And those districts have been won, which makes up for the majority of the state, which puts forward someone into the majority of Electoral College vote. I'm almost thinking it's the people who live in between, not fully rural, not fully urban. It's the suburban areas that have kind of the foresight and say, I'm tired of this. And eventually the city will follow, or they're watching the city, the more urban area, and then they follow suit, and that's where the voting goes. So it's kind of a theory, but I don't think the cities are the ones in the Electoral College. I think it's the suburban areas that aren't the farmers. It's the middle class people that don't want to be part of the city, but still pay attention. Still.
So when it comes to the Electoral College, that's usually how it works out. The rural or suburban environments more often determine how the Electoral College goes. Because, and that was the complaint of this Gravel Institute or Gravel Institute video, is that, it's not a pure democracy. And it's like, okay, you already have the representatives, House of Representatives, which is the closest the United States has to a popular vote for an office, because the population of the state determines how many representatives they have, and the representatives that get appointed per state are voted on popular vote. The Senate is kind of in between the presidency and the House of Representatives in that they're limited to 2 per state, but right now, because of the 17th Amendment, they are also elected within that state by popular vote. When the Senate was first established, the state legislator nominated their senators. And I think that's a much better process, but whatever, it's too late now. It changed in 1912. It's not going to change back.
It's been over 100 years.
Yeah, not going to change anytime soon. So the Senate is kind of in between the House and the presidency. And the presidency was never elected by popular vote, and has always been elected by the Electoral College. And the Electoral College is determined by that state. And so we've got Maine, which does split their votes based on how much of a percentage each candidate got. And in other states, it's winner takes all.
Yep.
So, if the complaint is the popular vote isn't, it's like, yes, that is there by design. And I've been telling these people in the comments on that stupid video, it's like, yes, that is the intended design of the Electoral College. And if you read the documentation, if you read the Federalists, Anti-Federalists, what the Founding Fathers were saying when they were drafting the Constitution, they didn't want the president to be elected by popular vote.
The president was never supposed to be elected through that manner. I think they developed a system that is decent enough to allow the sovereignty of all 50 states to have a voice, but still allow for population without population being the overall outcome.
Because
it's right in the middle.
Yeah. So the complaint is from these people is always, oh, well, now you've only got these handful of states that determine the president. It's like, right now, yes, we do. It seems to be Florida, Pennsylvania, and I think Virginia, like these key swing states. So I think North Carolina was one of them, and that seems to be going Biden. I know, Florida was one, Pennsylvania's one.
Like
Michigan,
Wisconsin, or Minnesota, one of those, or both.
But the thing, so the thing about that is
value.
The swing states this time around are not the same swing states as they were in 2016, and they're not the same swing states as they were in 2012, and they're not the same swing states as they were in 2008. However, if you look at the population, New York, California, Texas, Pennsylvania, they have been in the top 4 or 5 for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
If these people had their way and got rid of the Electoral College, those are the only 4 or 5 states that would matter ever.
Yep. And maybe sometimes Florida, depending on the season.
Yeah, so Florida is also kind of in the top 5. And that's partially why it's a big swing state. So Pennsylvania and Florida are kind of the biggest determining factors this year, because Florida's 29 votes, Pennsylvania is 20. You get both of those, man. That's like a fifth of what you need for the presidency. Yeah, and we already know New York's going blue and California are going blue. Although there have been California, see, I don't know why they've got Texas up for as if that is a potential Democrat state. I find it very hard, even with the influx of Californians to Texas. Find it very hard to think that Texas would go for Biden. Although
it's hard, but who knows?
Although they've got 3 million plus votes for Biden in Texas. Oof.
Yep, that's a lot more than I thought he would ever get. So,
yeah,
who knows what's going? But now they're also considering what is that? Wisconsin as potentially being red.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan, which that didn't happen. I don't think did Trump win Michigan last time. I don't think he did.
I think he won Michigan. It was either Michigan or Wisconsin. One of these two was the final straw. It was like he only needed to win one of them, and whenever one of the, I forget which one it was though. I can't remember if it was Michigan or if it was Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So he had enough votes, and then it's like, okay, all he needs is one of these next two, and he's got it. And then he got, I think.
Man, propaganda, that's a very strong tool.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at what Cuomo did and how many people are dead from COVID under him versus how many they're stating are under Trump, Cuomo is at least a quarter of all of the COVID deaths in the country. Like, that was a stupid move in a massive populated city to put infected with the elderly.
Yeah.
So that's on his shoulders, and Trump never told him to do that. In fact, CDC guidelines were kind of showing the opposite, that elderly are the most susceptible, therefore COVID infected should not go near elderly. And and then you got Illinois with a Lightfoot Beetlejuice lady where
Lightfoot, yeah.
she's allowed to break the laws because she's a government official and has public appearance. She needs to look her best because she's a public official.
Yeah.
Which she said multiple times, which is why laws don't apply to her, but they do need to apply to everybody else because she's a government official. Those ones seem to come out right off the bat, and it seems the same thing with California. Why is Pelosi still even in office?
I don't know.
There are some deeply ingrained. I don't even know what that is. It's not an ideology. It's just. How can you agree with a governor like Lori Lightfoot and say, I agree with her. She's a governor. She can go get her haircut. She can have a barbecue, and her street should be protected. The rest of us, we're not in government. We just have to deal with the riots, and we can't go get a haircut, and we can't have these barbecues. She's right. Who's thinking that?
Nobody. In fact, they're thinking the opposite, and there was like a plot to abduct Whitmer for her lockdown stances, and there's
why is Illinois already blue? Chicago is the only city in the entire state that is blue.
Yeah.
The rest of Illinois, not blue. Why is Chicago still having that much of a sway, and why are Chicagoans listening to that mayor that is about as two-faced as, like, two-faced, like, literally, like, just, for me, it's okay looking that way. For you guys, no. I had to get a haircut because I had public appearance. I just wanted you guys to know that, and it's through my government duty that I had to get a haircut. You guys aren't allowed. I will arrest you if I see you getting a haircut, but I needed to. That is literally like, that attitude's what led up to the French Revolution. That elitism. The people just got so fed up and said, why can't we just do that? So I don't understand how Illinois is already showing up blue like that. I understand why New York, even though I think a large population outside of New York City is actually red. It's just the city that's blue. How do they have so much sway?
Because they've got the largest population in that, and states don't break it down where each district has an equal representation. States for their senators and representatives, well, so the representatives are broken down by district, but the states overall, when it comes to senator and president,
that's how we
it's
got
the entire
AOC.
state. Oh, and we just got a big update there. I saw that on the screen.
I know that. It's just...
All right, so
I'm just talking about people living in those cities. Like, how do they keep voting that way, even when it's not benefiting them? How are New Yorkers still voting for Cuomo and for AOC when there's loss of jobs and there's death of elderly and COVID's widespread there because of mismanagement and, riots, looting, burning in Chicago and various other cities, and especially in Seattle, and people are still voting for those dickheads? Why? I don't get it.
That part that makes the least amount of sense is it's always these terribly run cities that keep voting for the same type of policies that make them the terribly run cities.
Yeah. It's frustrating to watch, and I don't know if it's all propaganda or if it just... Is it a hive mindset because of being in close proximity? You move into a big city and you're tight-knit in there. You feel you have to vote with the city in order to preserve the city life? I don't understand what's doing that, but... I mean, Trump's not the greatest president ever, but just really... Ooh, did that just update?
They just added New York to Biden's total, so it's 129 to 94. Texas could...
Yeah, but it looks like...
Texas is 38.
Wisconsin
Could easily switch it the other way around. Wisconsin is still...
No, North Dakota,
North
South Dakota,
Wyoming.
So some stuff is shifting on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once most of the Midwest totals out, Trump's going to be in the lead, and then we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, California and probably Seattle.
Okay.
Probably Oregon.
the Associated Press has New Mexico going for Biden as well. But they have not calculated which one are they not including, because they're at 119, so they're missing 10.
I don't know. I would be real surprised if Kansas flipped blue. That seems weird. Colorado has been blue was blue the last election. That makes sense. Iowa is probably expected to be a red. I would think Minnesota probably this term would be red.
Oh, I'm seeing Pennsylvania is at 400,000 for Biden and 144 for Trump. If Pennsylvania is a huge,
which doesn't make any sense at all.
Because they're having riots there, like, right now. Why? Why would you go for Biden when there's riots?
So at the riots, a large part of the working class there is in the field,
the oil industry,
which
fracking. And he just said he was,
with Biden at all. In fact, there was that scandal where Biden said he had already got endorsements, and then the local Boilermakers union's like,
nope.
No.
So
talk to you.
It's still pretty early for Pennsylvania, though.
So I guess we'll have to see what happens there, but I don't know, man.
Okay. Well, I mean, come on. Why didn't this update? Yeah, so their little mouse over function is very slow.
Is that something Iowa is in support of Biden?
Not this one.
Oh, okay. It must have been. Sorry, it must have been a delayed mouse over.
All right.
I thought it said Iowa, and it's like, yeah.
So CNN has it 73 for Biden, 42 for Trump.
Yeah. But, I mean, ultimately, if you're looking at what's currently there, right? Michigan, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, if those do end up flipping red, which it looks like there is a high, according to this map, a potentiality for those to be just decisively red. Florida's going to be a big one.
Yeah, Florida and Georgia, Trump's got a pretty substantial lead in both. Like 400,000 there, 200,000 there. South Carolina, well, I mean, that's only 16%. Yeah, so Florida looks like it's going Trump, because that's 90% reporting, and he's got a 400,000 lead. I don't think there's any way he can win Florida. Even if the remaining 10% go Biden, that's not enough to sway
I think
it, right?
if he did a quick flyover, got out of the plane and played some Despacito on his phone,
yeah,
I think that would help.
Okay, so because right now, if 90% is 10.6 million, right? I mean, there's only like 11.
Oh no! If it's already 9%, the 10% that's left is not going to sway that enough to.
Yeah, 10% is like 100,000 or somewhere around that range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to sway the vote. That's again, I don't know exactly how this is being tabulated, so you can never guarantee.
Ooh,
but
what
it's
just happened there? Oh, never mind. I was looking at the wrong digit place. I thought he just lost 200,000 votes. Never mind. But if these are accurate and 90%, it looks like Trump's got Florida, which is a huge win for him.
Well, I think so, but the odd one will be Texas, because that is a large amount of votes, and they're
that's
still
only 57% in, and it's fairly close. Although, man, that is way closer than it should be in Texas. What the hell, Texas? Have that many people from California moved to Texas?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily all from California. I think it's just big city living. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Dallas and Houston have sunk their teeth and
counties.
switched to Democrat.
So, wait, that's 50% reporting? So
yeah,
breaking
that's
it down this is not 50% of Texas reporting in. I'm so confused by that. the county breakdown makes less sense.
Yeah, it looks like 2 counties determine all of Texas.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of votes to come in from there, and I think Texas is called much later than other states, and it did last time around. And I think this is because Texas is so large and there's a lot of rural areas. It takes a while for those votes to come in from the more or the less connected areas. So, but yeah, there's still plenty of room for Trump to, and especially since they are within they're within 40,000 votes of each other, so it's 43% to go. That could still, based on this, it could go either way, but based on historical record and just, I guess, maybe common sense, I don't see that being a coin flip between Trump and Biden. That would be a huge swing for Biden if he won Texas, and that would be like the first time in 50 years that Texas voted Republican, voted Democrat rather than Republican. I mean, stranger things have happened. So California, I was actually surprised because I was looking at California. They have been more of a coin flip than New York and Texas. New York and Texas, like 50 plus years being solidly one way or the other. California has been back and forth because California went for Reagan, California went for Nixon. Who was the other one California went for? California actually voted for Bush. I don't remember which election that was, but so I was kind of surprised to see California was a little more of a coin flip than I thought. Because I mean that's huge considering that's 55 votes. If I don't know if California this time around is up for grabs. I think it's going to be staunchly blue, but it would be pretty amazing if California ended up flipping for Trump. Oh, did I lose you again? Hello? Or you're muted. I don't know if you're...
Oh, yep. Yeah, sorry. Didn't know I was muted. Hit the wrong button. If California flipped, I think it would cause a bit of confusion within the country as to how could that happen, because that, as right now, it's just known as a blue stronghold. It's an extremely liberal, extremely Democrat state. The unfortunate part is the only reason it's known of that is because of, San Diego, San Francisco, Hollywood, the big cities, Los Angeles, whereas the rest of California is
the upper like 2/3 is all red, and it's all the lower.
It's basically red.
Yeah.
It's like a half and half state. It's just unfortunately the major cities are more geared towards the lower half.
All right, but for all those people who are talking about the popular vote, so far Trump is up by 1 million. So, we need to elect presidents by popular vote, and then Trump's going to end up winning. I am fairly confident Trump's going to end up winning the Electoral College as well as the popular vote this time around.
So at least to just shut people up for about 4 years, let him do his job, do a second term without all this scandalous nonsense popping up that doesn't mean anything, and perhaps Pelosi will get out of office.
Oh, that would be
and
nice.
Somebody in,
especially considering, just like Joe, she keeps thinking George is in the presidency.
Yeah, I didn't know what George are talking about.
George Bush.
But I would even advocate, Mitch McConnell, great, served his job. He's also pretty much getting up there. I think it's time to get rid of the old guard. Let some newer faces come in, but at least I really don't know what's up with Pelosi. You would think at her age, being childish is out of it, but ripping up the crap on
the
paper,
State of the Union.
The Union constantly denying bills, trying to be passed to have aid to all states through COVID relief efforts, but just simply stating it's not enough. And then the Republicans are like, okay, well, what if we add this and we agree to this and this? This is what you wanted, right? Nope, it's not enough.
And it's not enough unless you do this thing that's going to cause problems.
Yeah. How much money has she prevented from going to the general public, Democrats and Republicans, your average citizens, through potential relief aid from COVID and from being laid off and from these city lockdowns? And it's just terrible. I don't know who's voting for her. How is she still in this, in the House?
Right.
How?
So, I don't know, dude. She should, Feinstein, like Hirona. I think Hirona was fairly new. She hasn't been there like decades, like Pelosi and Feinstein have. But
she's
Hirona was terrible. Like, how is she?
I don't think it's because she's manipulative. I think she's just a flat-out idiot.
Yeah. Well, and there's that other guy, the guy who thought Cuba could capsize. He's still there. He's still in Congress. And you're like, how are these people?
Oh, just wait on one side. Would the island possibly flip over?
Capsize. No, we don't anticipate that happening. that guy got reelected.
Yeah, how? The Macy Hirono, she has no individual thought in her head. Everything she spits out came from Twitter the day before. That's all she's looking at, and maybe what emails she got from other Democrats. She's a giant waste of space. I don't know who would vote for her.
Was Hirono the one who said that saying sexual preference instead of sexual orientation was derogatory?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
She said it's been derogatory for a while, and that's
and then like everybody's like, for a while, like, no, that's the first time we've ever heard of that.
It was fine yesterday. What are you talking about?
That's the crazy thing is because then there's people who will go like they're showing clips from CNN and all these mainstream media where they're using that phrase in their reports. Like, and this was like just a couple of days before this hearing.
Yeah. No, the worst part is the Merriam-Webster dictionary page got updated that day.
Yeah.
Fall in line with what she was saying. Is then some people view that as a controversial term or something. It got changed that day. What the?
And the reason they're saying it was controversial because because what she said is that saying it's a preference makes it sound like it's a choice when we know it's clearly not a choice. And I'm like, I don't know if that we've got the facts behind that. Your side keeps claiming it's not a choice and that it's inherent. Nothing we know of determines whether someone is gay or not. It's not like there is no gay gene, at least as far as I know. The studies about that have been inconclusive. There's no gay gene that we know of, but even if having a sexual preference was not a choice, choosing to engage in the act is very much a choice. Unless Macy Hirono is making the argument that everybody who is a homosexual is not only being raped, but they are committing rape because neither party can consent because neither party has a choice.
No. The thing that makes zero sense about any of that is, let's say you idealize somebody or you found someone extremely attractive, and man, that's that's a strong woman, and she knows what she did. And all of a sudden there's a mistake or she does something terrible, and your attraction drops because you're like, ugh, that's not the person I thought they were. Your attraction was based off of understandings of your impression. Nothing changed about them physically, so it's not a physical attraction, therefore it is in your head.
Yeah.
Same thing with exes. At one point, you thought your ex was attractive and beautiful, but something happened within the relationship, and now you no longer think that. Did they change that much physically, or did your thoughts about them change? Therefore, it's in your head. I would say science should be more likely leaning towards it's your current state of mind that makes you understand who you're attracted to right now. Regardless, there is no science stating you were born physically attracted to anybody, like, at all.
Yeah.
None of that's scientific.
Yeah,
Even if you're
especially before puberty.
Yeah. I mean, do you have a gene where if you're born a white hetero male, you're attracted to Asians? What gene is that? What if you didn't even know there were Asians out there? What if you grew up in the woods? Is that gene muted because you never saw them? I always wondered that because there was that dude who thought he was a tiger, right? He, the whiskers implanted, whatever. I'm like, what if he never knew what a tiger was? Obviously, he can't be born wanting to be a tiger if he didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
It's something that happened after he was born, not a gene. So, yeah, I don't know what these people are talking about, but that Macy Hirono, I've never heard anything that has come out of her mouth that was her own thought. She is the fangirl of the hot chick squad walking through high school. She's the one behind saying, I'd love to be a part of your group someday. Maybe if I'm a big enough supporter, I'll be part of it. That's her.
Yeah, let me into your group. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best description I can have.
I mean, I don't know if this happens in real life, but there's TV shows or movies where they'll just kind of they'll have the main characters talking in a group, and then the random character shows up and says something. Everybody's like, "What? Where'd you come from?" That's Macy Hirono.
Yeah, that's her. Oh, you guys are so amazing. I just love everything you do. I'll stand off here to the side. Let me know if you need something. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Can confirm.
Yeah. No original thought in her head, and nothing even policy related. Everything she does is PC based, like optics. That's it. She's trying to be completely optics based without having any sort of platform. Who is voting for that lady? What do they do in Hawaii? Are they all on vacation while working wherever, or do they not care about increasing industry, increasing agriculture, increasing anything in Hawaii to make things better? They're just how did she get voted there? What is happening in Hawaii? I think everyone needs to wake up and say, she's not doing anything. But I think we could pick someone else.
Yeah, Ted Lieu's another one that needs to go. He's, I don't actually know if I haven't been tracking to see if these people actually have their seats up for grabs, but I just. How do these people stay in there? Yeah, Ted Lieu is terrible as well. I know, like you said, Mitch McConnell probably needs to go, and I mean I like Grassley as well, but I think he's been there long enough.
I mean, even on the Republican side, there are kind of some old blokes that need to take a little retirement chill pill and step aside as well.
Yeah. Make way for the new guys, the Howley and Mike Lee and people like those that are man, I don't know if he is Howley when he was during the Justice Barrett hearings. I was like, man, that I am more impressed every time I hear that guy talk on these panels. I'm like, man, that guy is kind of like the new Trey Gowdy. It's pretty awesome.
The new Trey. Did Trey Gowdy go somewhere?
Yeah. Oh, he is no longer in Congress. He is now a correspondent for Fox.
Oh, I was because I've seen him pop up from time to time, but I was wondering why I'm not seeing him so much.
Yeah, I think
he didn't run again, or
I think maybe he stepped down, or he is not actively running, and so now he's a contributor.
Oh, okay, that would make sense. I was wondering about that because
I'm not sure. I think his seat was up for grabs 2 years ago, and he stepped down then, right? Actually, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not certain
I think it would be about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Or maybe he lost it. I don't know.
I don't think he lost. I think he stood down and somebody else replaced him.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of weird. So, Mitch McConnell's been around for quite a bit, and that's how he's the kind of main chairman of the Senate or whatever that position's called. But Lindsey Graham, Trey Gowdy, and what's his name, Jim. It's not Jeffries,
Jim
is
Jordan?
it?
No, Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jordan.
Comedian, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so
Try not to mix those
so
two up. Jim Jordan, like,
Gowdy-
did those names just kind of pop up in the last couple of years because they got fed up and started being more outspoken? Or were they like 8, 10 years ago? Were they just not there? They recently got elected?
Sorry, what was started with the Tea Party? Like Gowdy and Gates and guy.
Oh,
is
yeah,
it
Matt Gaetz, yeah.
Is it Chavez? Nunez and people like those all showed up during the Tea Party movement. So that's how they got. It was after that these people started showing up, and then once they were in, man, I was like, yes, that's what we need to hear. Finally, some smart people in these positions.
That makes sense, because for a long time the Republican Party was like, yeah, what a bunch of dead doorknobs. Why were you guys elected? What are you guys even doing? You can't even speak up for what we elected you for. Why? That would make sense.
Okay, so I don't know if Gowdy lost, but Elijah Cummings is the one who, yeah, Chaffetz, that was it. So yeah, it's Jason Chaffetz. He was pretty good too. Yeah, so I'm trying to see if Gowdy actually lost. I don't know if he lost. Okay, so he did not run in 2018. Yeah, so he didn't run in 2018, and the seat that he occupied went to Elijah Cummings in 2019. That makes sense.
Okay. Yep.
Because I was about to say, I find it very hard to believe that if he was running, he got beat by Elijah Cummings. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. It's already 9:30. Wow, I can't believe I've been going for 2.5 hours. Or no, for almost 2 hours here. I expected to be done in about an hour, and then I was gonna go hop on somebody else's stream or go watch Crowder's stream or Shapiro's stream or something like that. But I've got my ending clips here to go over, and so I'm gonna play those real fast, and then we'll call it a stream.
Just going through my comments for today. Your voice is so great, I would listen to you sing the nutrition label on a box of cereal. Thanks, Andrew Huang. What'ja now?
Total fat, 1.5 grams, 2% your daily value. Based on the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and American Diabetes Association criteria. Common side effects of Cymbalta include chronic trouble sleeping, excessive sweating, constipation, diarrhea. Thiamine, riboflavin, pantothenic acid, retinol.
Alright, I'm gonna skip a little forward here.
Quote-unquote union and the European Atomic Energy Committee, quote-unquote Euratom. Hydrogen, lithium, beryllium.
Alright, so that's pretty good. It's just her singing kind of random things. This is the one where I was like, okay, I've got to put this in the show, or in the stream. Alright, because this is round 2.
Occasionally I'll get a comment that says, oh, you're so good at singing, I would listen to you sing this absurd thing, because it wouldn't matter what you're singing, it would still be good. Would it? We accept part deliveries only by express agreement. In the event of agreed part deliveries, the amount of the back order must be shown. In the event of excess deliveries that exceed the usual commercial volumes, we reserve the right to return the excess goods delivered at the expense of the supplier. Water, sodium, lauryl, sulfate, and chloride, and cocaine, and grapefruit peel, and niacinamide. Did you know that there
Alright.
She is.
Let me see.
There's a place in a
Oh,
land
this is it.
called
Dude, this is, yeah.
Wales, the subject of many a tale, a land of sheep with hills so green, and the wildest frickin' name you've ever seen. Oh, take me to Llanfair Swingish Gongero Windrop and Sicily, go go go. Llanfair Swingish Gongero Windrop and Sicily, go go go. Yes, the town's
That is
name
amazing.
has 4 damn L's in a row. Yes, that's Llanfair Swingish Gongero Windrop and Sicily, go go go. Thank you all so much.
That is amazing. Are you still there? Hello? What happened? Did I close it? Man.
Just going through my comments.
Oh. I put it in the wrong chat. I put it in the wrong header. Alright, are we back? Ah, alright, well, I don't know if the stream heard it, but alright, we're gonna redo this. Man. Alright. I pasted it in the Hangout instead of the broadcasting. Eesh. Can you hear me? Alright, let me see how I can do this. Testing, testing. Can you hear me now? Alright. Let me redo the Hangout. Testing, testing. Is this working now? Testing, can you hear me? Why is this not working now? Oh, that was terrible. Hello? Hopefully I can get this working. Hello, can you hear me now?
There we go. Okay, yeah. Not sure what happened. Seemed like you dropped them off,
I
and
pasted it in the wrong browser, and it replaced the stream with the video, because they both look the same, with the exception of our heads in the corner.
Okay.
See if I can get this to to update correctly. Why? Okay. Why is this not broadcasting? Oh no, did I lose the ability to broadcast because of that?
Did it just end the stream?
No, I just can't connect to the weekly. I can't broadcast the video to the stream or to the Hangout.
Oh.
Right,
Is that because you didn't have it pulled up before I joined in?
Just going through my.
Let me see. No, it's with this. It's the stupid thing with Google that it screws up here. Ah, come on. All right. All right, maybe I'll just link you the video. That's unfortunate. Going so well, and then I screwed it up there at the end. Too many tabs open.
You ruined it. It's ruined.
It's ruined. Alright, so that's the link for the ending video. Although it's not just one video. It's actually 3 videos that are all kind of chained together. But I can't. I don't have the timestamps on them. So that's gonna be. Come on, let me broadcast to the stream. What is going on with my window capture? All right, hopefully the stream.
My comments for.
Because this is very bizarre. All right. Okay. So there, at least I got something showing on the video, but why is my Hangouts not pulling up correctly? I hate that my camera is right in the front of my screen, so I can't click this button. Why are we both showing up as black screens when on the Hangouts we are not black screens? Do I need to do that to get it to show up correctly? Alright, I'm confused. Terrible. Terrible, 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 terrible. Just terrible. I think the only way to resolve that is I gotta close out all the browsers, but I'm not gonna bother with that. So
yeah, on the actual stream, like I pulled that up on my older PC. There's like a girl typing something on an iPhone.
Yeah.
So I can see that instead of a black screen. So, I mean, something.
Alright. Sorry, I'm adjusting these settings here. Okay. Because that threw off my whole layout orientation. Alright, well, I'm not going to play the whole thing. So, the second clip I sent you, go ahead and open that one up. So this is the one ending in 8VN0. And then...
Occasionally I'll get a...
Okay, we're going to jump to... Where does this one start? Okay. Jump to 3 minutes and 14 seconds into that video. And then and then let me know when you've got that lined up and we'll play at the same time. So that way I'm not playing the whole thing over on the stream, but this is the best part. All right, you got it queued up? Hello? Did I lose you? And just like that, he's not in the call. I'm not sure what's going on there. Try one more time to cast. Nope, not letting me. Hello?
Well, crappy. Now I was trying to boot my PC back up and then join in, except for I can't see any of the links you sent on my phone. Like there's no chat. So I went to pull it up on my PC and it disconnected my phone, but then I couldn't get your incoming on my. It's all messed up now.
All right. So this. Okay, so this link you can see, right?
No.
The one I just
see
sent.
any.
Oh, you can't see any?
Not on my phone, no. There's no chat feature. It's just either video or audio.
Give me a second. I'm gonna email it to you. This is. Yeah, we probably should have stopped recording. I'm just like, we're just gonna end it, but whatever. I'm gonna make this work.
Yeah, we're not committed.
Yeah, because you got. Yeah.
Just started my PC back up, so I can look up the video, but it didn't accept your incoming meeting.
Okay. I sent you the link in an email. All right. And you're going to want to go to... Oh, I should have sent you the link with the timestamp then. Hang on a second. All right, but while I'm here, maybe one last time to try to cast to the stream. No, it's not going to let me. Probably thinks it's the old stream, so that's why.
Huh.
Okay,
Occasionally.
Oh, okay. So I sent you one. It's got the 3 minute 14 seconds at the end. Yeah, click on that link. And
3 minutes and 4 seconds.
Yeah, click on that link and let me know when it. And as soon as I hear it, I'll play it on my end. Although you might want to mute yourself when it's playing, because I'm getting some. I'm hearing the video on your audio.
Is that the one with the girl talking about something?
Yes. So.
Because that video is showing up for me as 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
No, the timestamp, like it should say T equals 3 minutes 14 seconds.
Oh, didn't see that in the link in the email.
So go to 3 minutes and 14 seconds into the video.
Okay, yep, I'm there.
Okay, and mute yourself before you hit. I guess say, man, hit pause and then mute.
I will mute myself. Just proceed.
All right. So I'm hitting play. Oh, okay. Get ready to hit play now.
Old Wales, the subject of many a tale, a land of sheep with hills so green, and the wildest frickin' name you've ever seen. Oh, take me to Llanberbor, Swingish, Gongero, Flindrobor, Land Sicily, go, go, go.
It makes me laugh every time. It's such an awesome song.
Land Sicily, go, go, go. Yes, the town's name has 4 damn L's in a row. Yes, that's Llanberbor, Swingish, Gongero, Flindrobor, Land Sicily, go, go, go.
I don't know if you. Oh, you're still muted. Okay, you can unmute.
That was similar to, what was that? A weatherman who was trying to.
The weatherman who said it, but it's
Icelandic city name or town name.
Yeah. So
why?
It was a publicity stunt. If you look up the name of the town, it's a publicity stunt. They had 3 towns with rather long names, all kind of close to each other, and they all merged into one, and they basically merged all the names together to make this ridiculously long name. But I'm sending you a follow-up link. Okay, so this is the... Because it gets weirder. Alright, I'm going to hit pause on that. So this is a minute and 30-something seconds. You have that video pulled up? Hello?
Not sure which link I'm clicking on.
It should be the most recent one I sent you. It ends with a KSY, capital KSY. Should be that email.
Wow. Gmail is ridiculous. It combined all 3 emails into one, so while I thought I was looking at an old email, it just started adding links to the bottom of...
Yeah. I kind of like it that way, and it makes me so annoyed when I go to Outlook and I'm like, what's going on? Oh, okay. We're going to look at other emails, and I'm like, why are these split up? Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, the problem is I could see the number increasing, but I had to refresh my browser for the actual email to update, so I was like, where are these emails going? Not seeing it.
Gotcha.
Anyways, yeah, I'm there.
Okay. I'm gonna hit play on this one. This was ridiculous.
Yep.
We are looking at how to pronounce the name of this hill, located near Parangahau, south of Waipukurau, in southern Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. This name could actually be the longest word in the Maori language, the indigenous language of New Zealand. How do you go about pronouncing it? Tau mata whakatangihanga ko au au o tamate atu ripu kakapiki maunga horo nuku pokai whenua ki tanata. Let's try this again. One important thing to have in mind that most people get wrong is that WH in Maori sounds like F, the sound of the letter F, and most people get this wrong. But that's how to say it. Let's try this again.
He's like, one thing most people get wrong.
It's pretty straightforward.
You mean the whole thing? Shouldn't explain some intricacies on like a minor part, like this area.
And you'd think this would be a joke. No, this is a legitimate place, and there's like a city, a sign out front with this like, it's like several, it's like 15 feet long. It's ridiculous.
Building a sign for the village. They bring the first tree by, and you guys like, nah. I already know. Pointing something bigger. But no, the guy in the video is like, he's really nice, and he's trying to explain. He's like, some of you, some of the main things you may have trouble with. What part is he even talking about where you might have trouble? I didn't understand the beginning. What is he talking about? The whole thing I'm having trouble with.
Yeah. So the other video was just her singing kind of random things that some of the subscribers had sent to her. A lot of it is pretty funny. And then I saw that name and I just bust up laughing. I'm like, dude, that's got it. So I've got 3 other clips that I had previously as the ending to this one. I'm not going to use them now. Maybe I'll use them later, but and for some reason they all have kind of a musical bend to them. I don't know if maybe that's just me, but maybe that's just my search history on YouTube. It's like, you like strange musical stuff. All right, here's some absurdity.
Musical flow.
Yeah. So So I've got 3 other links that are not so related, and I'm like, I think I'll just save those for later. But I think I am done for now. It is almost 9:50. I'm gonna call it a stream. Thanks to anybody who ends up watching this later, because I know nobody's watching it now. Everybody and their mother is doing a live stream of the election results. So, and you don't want to watch this duct tape production where I can't even get the Hangout chat to display properly.
Just pasting it together. Maybe no duct tape, just some Scotch tape.
Yeah. This is more like held together by Scotch tape. Yeah.
Couple paper clips.
All right, and I have decided that I am going to end my stream with my catch. I guess maybe it's a catchphrase, but remember, 2 wrongs don't make a right; they make a leftist. And that's where we'll end it. Oh, if I actually hit the button to end the stream.